The IRS can't keep doing business in the old ways. If we get additional funding, we are not going to build the IRS back to where it was in 2010. We need to be looking forward to a new, improved way of doing business. The world is changing, taxpayers are changing, and so too must the IRS.
Everyone hates the Infernal Revenue Service. Yes, I said infernal. Save perhaps for those who work there and collect a tidy government paycheck, but even then they may have an issue with the organization. With April 15th about to wallop Americans again, let us delve into this possibility. A nation with no income tax as we know it now, and how that would work. Maybe no Internal Revenue Service. Only one man can make this conversation happen, the syndicated columnist and economist at the University of Maryland, Peter Morici joins us. Peter, you are going to be loved by everybody with your current article that says junk income taxes altogether. But before we get there, we heard the commissioner talk about the fact that there have to be changes. Briefly, how did we get to a point where the IRS turned into this behemoth organization that can't seem to do anything right and basically ticks off every human being?
Well, the tax code is incredibly complex, and the administration has sort of put out the word by vibration that conservatives are not only wrong, but they're evil, and they deserve to be destroyed. Now, I don't think anybody ever reached down into the IRS and said, let's, go after all these conservatives, other than the House deputy leader who did do that. But I think it was more like, let's make the boss happy. We know he'll like it if we do this, right now. That man's words, the commissioner's words, are so hollow and groundless. Right now, something
Why
like
is that, Peter? Why is that? Why are they
IRS
hollow and groundless?
Are being ignored. You cannot get tax help from the IRS during tax season. Because they say, well, we don't have enough people. That's their way of trying to get their budget increased. Well, they could move their auditors, who certainly understand the tax code, to answering the phones for these 3 weeks. But instead, they're still out there, hammer and thong, axe in hand, trying to nail as many conservatives as possible. He could at least get the phones answered. But instead, he's using tax season as a way to get his budget increased. That's classic. It's like the local school board. If you vote down the budget, they threaten to cancel a football team.
All right, so let's not cancel the whole football team here. Let's see if we can thin it out a little bit. You're talking about junking the income taxes altogether and going to a value-added tax. But it's almost like what's being used in Europe. Would it work here in America?
It only works in America if we really get rid of the income tax and the corporate tax as well. And we could do that by setting the rate at, say, 12% and making everybody and everything in the private sector pay. No exceptions, no exemptions. Everybody has to pay 12% of the revenue they take in. And then they get to subtract the taxes on the purchases for whatever goods and services they buy. So, for example, my church, as it takes in $1 million a year, and it pays for, office supplies and utilities and whatever, a tax rate of 12%. Well, it has its receipts, it adds them up, and at the end of the year, it puts down revenues, it puts down expenses, and it only pays 12% on the difference.
So
the expenses would be really simple. No more depreciation, no more nonsense. Everything's expensed all at once, beginning. No business about meals being at half price and this and that. Okay. Nice and simple.
So I got about 90 seconds here then. Is it not fair to say, and you even point this out in your article, that a value-added tax taxes the rich and the poor consumers at the same rate? So how do we get out of that?
Well, you essentially give folks $3,500 a year for each child, and for elderly people as well, who've already paid taxes on their income and now living off savings. If we did that, then we'd have to have a rate of 16%. Now, granted, it's a 16% sales tax, but think about it. No income tax. How much more money you'd have in your paycheck.
Then how far, and I know you're going to hear this, the American public's going to look us both in the eyes right now and say, great idea, Peter. Why are we not there? And what's it going to take to get there?
Well, both Republicans and Democrats. I don't want to bring just Mr. Obama. Enjoy giving out benefits to their friends. And so instead of having a 12% rate, we have a 30 or 40% rate for some people, because some folks get to pay nothing or very little, like Warren Buffett and Jamie Dimon.
But are they listening? Are those guys and gals inside the Beltway even listening, Peter, or are we just wasting our breath when we complain about something like this to them?
I don't think we're wasting our breath. You know what my most significant tax reform would be? It'd be to have taxes filed on November 1st, right around election time instead of April 15th. Then think about how much simpler the process would get if politicians how to get votes on the basis of how easy they make it instead of how hard. The next 2 weeks, instead of enjoying opening day and spring flowers, most of us are going to endure living hell trying to fill out those terrible forms and get it right.
Oh boy, you are brilliantly evil on that. That would be so much fun to sit and watch, but I'll go with you right there.
Wouldn't that be neat to watch?
Oh, I mean, right in November. Here's my vote and here's my W-2s. Let's go to work. Peter Morici, always a pleasure to have you on the show, my friend. Thanks so much for joining us. The new executive order targeting overseas cyber attacks, next on MidPoint.